Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a brand new, kind of a brand new video from Popcar Studios. Yes, it is a little old, but still. Today we're going to be checking out this video of turning famous horror characters into mech armors. Let's hop in and see who gets armorified. Armorified? Close enough. Oh, look at that. Double click accident actually was good.
Famous horror movie characters
There
as
we
mech
go.
armors seemed like a great way to continue the trend of some of my spooky and horror-related episodes that I've been doing this month. Plus, it provided a perfect excuse to finally do another banter episode, with the lore for these mech armors in this episode being explained through a conversation between two of my original characters. Good old Benny Shop, the mech maker who narrates all of my mech armor episodes, and Professor Dresden Oakland, a former paranormal researcher at his universe's version of the SCP Foundation. They both have their own vast histories on this channel, but you don't really need to know about that to enjoy this video. So let's get into some banter and art, shall we?
Let's go.
Hit like if you want. Subscribe
If you feel like it. By the way, enjoy the show. And first up is... Annabelle. Now that's gonna be an interesting one.
Hey, Champ, come on, where you at? You around here anywhere?
I haven't seen him, man.
Hey, Dresden, you seen Champagne around here? I gotta tell him about this spooky mech armor I just came across in my world. You are falsely assuming that I already know the names of everyone in this group. Oh, right, fair enough. Alright, he's the handsome black guy with hair that goes like whoop. He's usually carrying around a coffee that, given the season, is probably a pumpkin spice latte right now, even though he'll pretend it ain't. He's not quite as grumpy looking as you, but you know, in the same ballpark. Is any of this ringing a bell? Yes, I am aware of whom you refer to, but I have not seen him. Now, would you please leave me be? There are chores I'm required to attend to. Whatever they got you doing can wait. I can tell you about what happened since Champagne ain't around. You used to work for a version of the SCP Foundation, right? A very, very long time ago, but yes, that is accurate.
Yeah,
right, well, see, in my world, the equivalent is this group called the Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation. Seeing as how there's a whole bunch of weird superheroes in my world. And I've been doing some work with them lately. See, I make mech armors for folks for a living, so when they was having some trouble hunting down some mech armor-based supervillains that was killing folks, they asked me to come in and help them hunt them down. Is this going to be a long story?
Yes, yes it will.
Probably about 4.5 minutes, but then I got 2 more of about roughly the same length, and, you know, maybe there'll be an ad thrown in.
Do we have the 3? Yeah, we only have the 3.
And in the middle somewhere. What do you mean by an ad? Don't worry about that. Anyway, so Daze tells me that there's this mech suit looking around Santa Monica killing folks. And
okay, all of you out there, how much do you want to bet that Benny is actually watching all of these videos and that's how he knows about the ad break and all of that?
Pretty sure that the armor was made by this guy Mullins. Mullins was a mechanic that lost his daughter, Annabelle, because she was killed in the crossfire of some superhero and villain battle or something. So then he wanted to make a mech armor for his next kid, so that when she was getting into her late teens and running out and around in the world, she'd have something to protect her from stuff like that. I suppose that is not the most unusual strategy for protecting one's child. Yeah, not bad. Problem was, they never ended up having another kid. Though they did end up taking in this group of orphans after their foster home was repossessed by the bank, because the nuns that were running it couldn't afford the payments no more. Repossessing a home from nuns and foster children seems to border on cartoonishly cruel. Yes, says the guy who committed genocide a couple weeks ago. I don't know that genocide is really the right term for my actions. No?
You took
a specific group of folks that all had something in common, trapped them in a prison, then killed them all. What exactly would you call that?
Justice?
Carry on with the story. Right. Anyway, since they couldn't have kids of their own, they ended up giving the mech armor to one of the foster gals whose legs didn't work, so she could use it to walk around. But apparently something about the suit started making her act all murdery. What qualifies someone as acting, as you describe, murder-y? She started doing a bunch of murders. In hindsight, I should have assumed that.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, you should have.
Anyway, so this gal even eventually started calling herself Annabelle, like the Mullins guy's daughter. Got her name officially changed and everything, then she went out on the run. The Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation think there was something supernatural going on. That Mullins guy had a whole bunch of paranormal and occult books in his house, so they think he might have tried to call back the soul of his dead kid and put it into the mech armor he made. But then maybe instead he accidentally summoned some kind of demon or dark spirit or something.
It's
That
unclear.
strikes me as a very large leap in logic to make. Did they have more evidence to suggest this was possible? Yeah, but it's all kind of boring stuff. I'm just giving you the Coles notes of the story, right? Keeping it brief. Anyway, they got a hold of the original blueprints for the mech, and I figured out that the way Mullins had built the thing, it gave off a specific frequency that we could track down. Then we hunted down Annabelle to this freaky murder cult that she joined. Bing bang boom, we not only took down a crazy murder gal, but a whole bunch of weird murdery culty folks too.
Good job.
So what does the version of the SCP Foundation in your world intend to do with the girl and the armor? I don't know, probably try and correct her and place her somewhere or something, or, maybe they'll just lock her up in IKEA. Interesting. So the Infinite IKEA is a prison in your world? No, it's just really hard to find your way out of that place, Nah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's a prison. I escaped from there once. It's good times.
Wait, what?
Anyway, here's a picture of that mech armor.
You escaped from the Infinite IKEA? What's the story about that? Oh, I like how some of the paint is chipped off. Nice.
Now see, that wasn't actually the first time those folks asked
Frankenstein's monster. Now there's a classic.
me to help them bring in some sort of mech villain. The first time they did that was more personal for me, because the mech they needed help taking down was partially made out of bits of other mech armors that I had made for past clients of mine. See, there are schools in my world where folks can learn advanced mechanics to make stuff like mech armors, and there was this guy going to one of them named Victor Frankenstein. Well, given the setup for this tale, I can save you some time and tell you that I am familiar with the story of Frankenstein. As it is a very famous book in many dimensions, I have encountered several iterations of the creature depicted in the story, and a doctor of that same name was an early member of the SCP Foundation in my universe.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I guess this story does have some similarities to that Mary Shelley book. That book exists in your world and you did not see the connection prior to this moment?
Oh my god,
well, I
Benny.
ain't never actually read it myself, and in my world the book is called Frankenstein. But still, there is definitely some similarities between these situations.
Frankenstein.
Anyway, so this Frankenstein guy, he gets real overconfident and tries to get funding from the school to do a project to build this self-intelligent mech armor that can both function as a suit for the wearer, but also move around and fight stuff on its own, without its wearer. The school says he ain't ready to do something like that and that it's too dangerous for a student to try and make something like it. But Frankie boy, he ain't taking no for an answer. He starts going out to battle sites where mech-based supervillains has been taken down to get scraps of their armor, and going out to junkyards to get more stuff like discarded mech bits. Then how did pieces of your armors get mixed into this? What are your clients doing with these suits? I may or may not have built some mech armors for some villain types in my early days. Heck, I even once accidentally built a mech armor for this lady who took the suit and used it to kill a whole bunch of high school kids to get revenge on folks that had bullied her son. Not super proud of that one for sure, but it's also not a bad story. Maybe I'll swap that out for the third.
Wait a minute, that's the Pamela Voorhees story he just told.
Story today.
Kind of.
You are aware that you're under no obligation to tell me 3 stories, correct? I mean, I could go for 4 if you really want me to, but I usually get bored of hearing myself talk after 3. That strikes me as difficult to believe. Fair enough. Anyway, so this Frankie guy puts together this mishmash neck armor all secret-like in the school basement, installs this high-tech AI that he done built, and boom, brings the thing to life. But pretty quick, he starts asking him all these questions about what he is and what's the meaning of life and whatnot. Frankie starts to think he might have made this thing too sentient, so he starts trying to shut it down. But the mech armor ain't feeling that, so he tries to stop Victor. Unfortunately, the thing doesn't know its own strength, and it beats him up pretty bad. The mech armor then feels pretty bad about what it just done, and it runs away, smashing through the walls of the school on its way out, causing a lot of expensive property damage.
Damn.
Have you interviewed Victor Frankenstein or this AI armor? There are many details of this story you're proclaiming that seem as though they'd be very difficult for you to know for certain. So I'm editorializing a little bit, making the story more interesting. What, do you want to hear the boring facts-only version of the story? Or you could simply not tell me the story at all. Come on, just lean in and embrace the situation. What, are you really that annoyed that I'm trying to chat with you for a bit so you don't have to go do chores? Fine, I suppose these tales are mildly more interesting than what I'm supposed to be doing at the moment.
There you go, Oakland. See?
Carry on.
Friends.
Thank you. So the mech armor escapes and Frankie leaves the school and goes on the run himself, because he knows he's gonna get in big trouble for what he done did. The mech armor starts going out and watching folks through their windows and stuff in secret to try and learn things about humans, cause it's trying to figure out if it qualifies as a living being, or if it's really just a machine. But when it goes up to try and interact with this one family that it's been watching, they get all spooked and call the cops that there's some supervillain near them. That's when the Superhero Corrections and Placement Foundation comes in, and they don't exactly help much with calming things down. There's this whole fight, the mech armor escapes again, they track it down a few more times, but eventually they call me in, since they find out that the suit is built from some pieces of my own armors. I finally help them take it down, they bring it into custody, and now they're trying to help it figure out what exactly it is, and what it can actually do to help folks, so people don't think it's a villain or a monster or nothing.
Well, that is
Just
certainly a more positive result for the creation than its book counterpart gets.
Well, that's certainly good to hear, but the thing is, they also ain't never found Victor Frankenstein. He's still out there on the run, so he never had to face any consequences for what he done did. He practically created life, then abandoned the thing to fend for itself. So I think the real question the story leaves us with is, who was the real mech armor all along? Victor Frankenstein?
Close.
Or the mech armor?
Close.
I feel I could answer that question quite easily.
Nah, I'd say it's a pretty deep and philosophical question. You just gotta, take like 10 seconds to think about it.
No, we get it. You just kind of said it wrong, Benny. The saying is, who is the real monster? The monster or Victor Frankenstein?
Quick interruption to say that there will be a bonus episode on Popcrust Studios this week, going out on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to make sure to see that as it's coming out, I'll be in the comment section for the first hour as usual, so you might want to make sure you're subscribed and got the notification bell rung, especially if you're a fan of Spider-Man or Hell of a Boss. Also, all the art from this episode will be available as posters on the Popcrust Studios Teespring store as usual, linked in the description, and if you want the high-resolution art to download or the inks from this episode, or bonus weekly podcasts from me, you might want to consider supporting the Popcrust Studios Patreon. But now back into more art.
Here we go. Oh, no, here we don't go. We'll be right back. And we're back with the final mech armor.
Alright, I was gonna tell you the story of this aquatic shock mech villain that I helped the Foundation track down that was terrorizing this town, but the mayor of the town was trying to convince folks it wasn't a problem. But since I already started that story about the supervillain mom lady, I'm gonna pivot to that instead. See, back before I started hanging out with this group of ours, I would sort of just make mech armors for whoever. So long as they paid good, I was good, you know?
Well, I suppose it is encouraging to know that this group helped you elevate your morals.
Yeah, they's some good folks, and spending time around good folks makes you more good, you know? I mean, I still don't do stuff like pay my taxes in my world, but I take that as more of a moral stance, you know? I ain't gonna line the pockets of the politicians running things in my world. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is great in the movies and all, but he ain't doing such a good job running the country.
Wait, what? Dwayne Johnson's the president in Benny Sharp's universe? I mean, damn. The only time... we had Donald Trump, who is an ex-TV show star, as president at one point. No, I was about to talk about how Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. That's what I was about to bring up.
The way you phrased that, it seems as though you were seeking a reaction from me, but I am not familiar with this Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God.
He's so big in my world, both, physically and celebrity-wise, that I just assumed they got a version of him in every world. You should have heard Champagne's reaction to learning that he was the president in my world. He was all like, "What the flip do you mean the blatant rock is the president?"
That was a surprisingly good impression.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that stuff. Anyway, so this lady, Pam Voorhees, comes to me, and she says she wants a mech armor for just, general protection purposes. But she also wants it to not look like it's a lady mech, which should have thrown me off right away. Usually folks want their mechs to accent their features, like dudes wanting their mech to make them look all buff, and ladies wanting their mech armors to make them look more va-va-voom. But not this lady, and I only realized why later on.
Could you define the term va-va-voom for me?
Yeah, not really. It's just kind of a vibe term, you know? You can kind of feel what I meant, can't you?
Actually, yes, I suppose I can.
There we
Carry
go.
on.
So Pam tells me she doesn't really care what this thing looks like, besides it not looking like a lady mech, so long as it's real durable and got some weapons that can pop out like a machete or something. But I wasn't about to make some generic, nothing-looking mech, you know? I take pride in my work. So I took some creative liberties and based the design off this old hockey mask I had in my garage. She pays up, I give it to her, and she goes off on her way. Unfortunately, I happened to see on the news while I was channel surfing a few weeks later that she had used the suit to kill a bunch of teenage camp counselors who'd let her son drown. I guess she'd wanted the mech to not look like a lady so it would be harder for people to figure out that it was her. Luckily, this gal Alice had managed to damage Pam's mech enough to hold her off until some superheroes came onto the scene and took her down for good.
Well, that sounds like a truly awful situation for all involved.
Let me guess though, now the mech is possessed by a whole dead son's spirit. And like even if they broke off the head, they wouldn't see anyone in there. And it's like, what? There's no pilot? And before being slapped off by his robotic hand.
Was the armor traced back to you?
Nah, you get real good at covering your tracks when you spend your life never paying your taxes. But the weird thing is that mech armor later disappeared from the evidence locker before it could be destroyed. Then it started popping up again a whole bunch of different times and killing more folks. But old Pammy was still locked up in the clink, so we got no idea who's driving the thing. Since the suit only ever pops up on Friday the 13th to kill folks, some folks like to say that the ghost of the Voorhees lady's kid overtook the suit and is out for revenge itself, only killing folks on the same day that kid died. It's especially weird because whoever's driving the mech is also only ever going after attractive young teens.
And have you allowed this creation of yours to remain out in the world, still killing innocent people?
Calm down, Judgy McGenocide. I did for a little bit, because when it first started popping up again, I was busy helping some other kids take down this other serial killer named Willie Afton. But eventually I did track down the thing, froze it with whoever was inside it, still inside it, then used one of my other mech armors to fly it up into space and just chucked it out into orbit. Whether there's a person driving it or a ghost driving it, that thing ain't coming back.
So you did not bother to check who was using the armor?
I wanted to keep the mystery alive, you know? Sometimes not knowing is half the fun of a spooky story.
I disagree strongly. The more knowledge one can acquire, the more capable you are of making strong decisions.
Nah, nowadays I'm more about using your gut. I used to not listen to my gut back when I was making mech armors for real bad folks, but now I use it all the time, and I make way better decisions.
Well, I am skeptical about that, and believe it will frequently lead you astray if you continue to do so.
Oh yeah, and what did your gut tell you about that genocide you committed?
Would you please stop referring to it in that way?
Well, what does your gut tell you about whether or not I'm going to do that?
It tells me that you are not likely to stop.
See that? Look at you learning and growing. Getting better at listening to your gut. Dreszy Oakland's healing arc is well underway.
Yeah! Alright, I'll give it. Jason's mech is actually pretty damn good. And out of this whole out of this whole episode,
if you enjoyed this and you want more mech armors and banter, you might want to check out my trilogy of Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics as mech armors. Or if you want something with a different tone, you might like my famous horror video game characters as Marvel Superheroes episode. Both of those will be linked up in the cards. Also, let me know if you want more banter from Dresden, because I think an episode of him, Benny, and Champagne could be a lot of fun. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote I read this week from a man named Marcus Stanley, who said, "You have survived too many storms to be bothered by raindrops." That one's, it's like a pretty simple one, but I don't even feel like I want to elaborate.
Simple but good. I like it.
Right on it. Just, I don't know. That one hit me really well. I like that one. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Wednesday. Then another video on Friday, as usual. See you there. Goodbye.
Well, folks, that's going to be the end of today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.